Turning 60 is often seen as a milestone, a time when life takes on a new rhythm and pace. For many, it marks a period of reflection, growth, and, most importantly, the shedding of old habits that no longer serve us. Life after 60 can feel like a rebirth in many ways, a time to let go of unnecessary burdens and embrace a more authentic version of ourselves. This stage of life offers an opportunity to redefine our priorities, focusing on what truly matters and finding greater peace, happiness, and fulfillment. In this journey of self-discovery, many of us find that certain behaviors and mindsets that once seemed essential become burdensome. By letting go of these, we make room for new experiences and deeper connections. Below are 9 things that many of us find we no longer do after reaching this age. Each one reflects a shift in values and represents a step toward a more harmonious and meaningful existence. But before we dive into these transformative changes, if you resonate with this journey and are eager to explore more, please give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an update on living your best life after 60. 1. No longer caring. What people think. One of the most liberating aspects of reaching 60 is the diminished concern over others' opinions. For much of our lives, we invest time and energy worrying about how others perceive us. Whether it's about our appearance, our success, or how we conduct our lives, this concern often drives our decisions, from careers and relationships to social appearances. We strive to meet societal expectations, sometimes at the expense of our true desires and happiness. However, after 60, a significant shift occurs. We come to realize that most people are not paying as much attention to us as we once believed. Individuals are wrapped up in their own lives, facing their own challenges and insecurities. The anxiety of trying to impress or fit into a particular mold begins to fade. This doesn't mean becoming indifferent to others. Rather, it's about recognizing that external validation is no longer necessary. There's a newfound confidence that accompanies age, a sense that we no longer need to prove ourselves to anyone. This freedom allows for a more authentic way of living, where choices are based on personal happiness rather than the need to conform. Dressing comfortably rather than fashionably, expressing our true thoughts without fearing judgment, and embracing our unique quirks become sources of pride rather than embarrassment. This realization deepens our connection to ourselves. What others think of us loses its power, and we focus instead on what brings joy, peace, and contentment into our own lives. The energy once spent on meeting external expectations is now redirected toward nurturing meaningful relationships, pursuing passions, or simply enjoying the present moment. After all, true freedom comes not from the approval of others, but from living in a way that is true to ourselves. 2. No longer putting up with toxic people. Throughout our lives, we often find ourselves in relationships that drain us emotionally and mentally. Whether it's a difficult family member, a demanding boss, or a manipulative friend, we may tolerate negative or toxic individuals out of a sense of obligation, fear of conflict, or the hope that things might improve. This emotional energy spent managing such relationships can take a toll on our well-being. However, as we reach 60 and beyond, our tolerance for toxic behavior tends to dwindle. There's a growing understanding that life is too short to surround ourselves with negativity. The energy once spent on trying to fix or endure difficult relationships is now recognized as wasted effort. Instead, we become more protective of our emotional health, choosing to prioritize peace of mind over the chaos that toxic individuals bring. Take the story of John, who had a colleague at work who was constantly critical and undermining. For years, John tried to maintain a cordial relationship, hoping that things would improve. After retiring, John realized how much stress this relationship had caused him. He decided to distance himself and focus on nurturing positive connections with others. This decision not only improved his mental health, but also opened up opportunities to form more meaningful and supportive friendships. This shift doesn't mean becoming isolated or cutting off all relationships that challenge us. Rather, it means being more selective about the company we keep. We choose to spend time with those who are positive, supportive, and loving, instead of those who constantly bring drama, conflict, or resentment into our lives. Setting boundaries becomes an act of self-care, and letting go of toxic relationships is a way to reclaim personal peace. Letting go of these negative relationships can be an empowering experience. It frees up time and energy that can be invested in more fulfilling activities and connections. As we age, we gain the wisdom to recognize that maintaining relationships that harm us is neither necessary nor beneficial. Instead, we focus on building and sustaining relationships that enrich our lives, bringing joy and support. 3. No longer having unrealistic expectations of others. In our younger years, it's common to place high expectations on those around us. We expect our partners to understand us without explanation, our friends to always be there when needed, and our families to fulfill roles they may not be equipped to handle. These unrealistic expectations can lead to frustration, disappointment, and sometimes resentment when people inevitably fall short. After 60, there's a profound realization that expecting others to meet all of our needs is both unrealistic and unfair. We come to understand that people are flawed, just as we are, and they will not always act in ways that align with our desires. Instead of holding others to impossible standards, we shift toward accepting people as they are, imperfections and all. Take the example of Linda, who always expected her children to be available at a moment's notice. As they grew older and busier with their own lives, Linda felt neglected and disappointed. However, as she reached her 60s, she began to accept that her children had their own responsibilities and challenges. This acceptance led to a deeper, more compassionate relationship where both Linda and her children felt understood and valued. This shift doesn't mean settling for less in our relationships. Rather, it's about understanding that everyone is doing the best they can with what they have. When we let go of the need for others to be perfect, we open the door to more authentic and compassionate connections. We learn to appreciate the small gestures of kindness and support, rather than focusing on what's left lacking. Moreover, this change in perspective helps alleviate feelings of disappointment. Instead of being let down when someone doesn't behave as expected, we experience a greater sense of peace by accepting people for who they are. We stop trying to change others and start appreciating them for their unique qualities and contributions to our lives. This leads to more harmonious relationships and fosters a forgiving attitude towards both others and ourselves. 4. No longer setting complex goals. In the earlier decades of our lives, there's often a strong emphasis on setting and achieving ambitious goals. Whether it's climbing the career ladder, buying a home, raising a family, or reaching financial milestones, we spend much of our time working toward complex, long-term objectives. While this can be fulfilling, it also creates pressure and anxiety as the fear of not meeting these goals looms over us. By the time we reach 60, the pressure to constantly strive for the next big achievement begins to fade. There's a significant shift in priorities where the focus moves from accomplishing grand external goals to finding contentment and engaging in simpler, more meaningful pursuits. The need to prove ourselves through achievements diminishes, and the desire to enjoy life in the present moment becomes more prominent. Instead of setting complex long-term goals, the emphasis after 60 is on living well today. The goals we set are more personal, immediate, and aligned with our values. These might include taking better care of our health, learning a new hobby, or spending more quality time with loved ones. These goals don't require years of planning or intense effort. They're about making each day count in ways that bring joy and fulfillment. This shift also fosters a sense of contentment. Instead of constantly chasing after the next big thing, we find joy in the present moment and the simple pleasures it offers. We learn to celebrate the small successes and find fulfillment in the daily routines that bring us happiness. 5. No longer trying to keep busy, just for the sake of it. In today's fast-paced society, busyness is often equated with productivity and success. Many of us spend our younger years rushing from one task to the next, balancing work, family, and social commitments. There's a sense of pride in staying busy, as being constantly in motion makes us feel like we're achieving something, even if it leaves us feeling exhausted and disconnected from what truly matters. However, after 60, the need to keep busy for the sake of it tends to diminish. There's a growing realization that busyness does not necessarily equate to a fulfilling life. In fact, constantly filling our days with activity can prevent us from appreciating the simple pleasures that life offers. The frantic pace of earlier years gives way to a more mindful approach, where the focus shifts from quantity to quality. Slowing down allows for a deeper connection to ourselves and the world around us. Instead of rushing from one thing to the next, we can savor each experience more fully. The pressure to do it all fades away, replaced by a sense of peace that comes from living in harmony with our inner selves. For instance, Michael, who once filled his days with various commitments, found that by reducing his activities, he could engage more deeply in the ones he loved. He spent more time painting, which not only brought him joy, but also allowed him to express his creativity in a more meaningful way. This intentional approach to time management led to a richer and more fulfilling life. 6. No longer engaging in unnecessary debates. In our younger years, there's often a strong impulse to voice our opinions, defend our positions, and engage in debates on a wide range of topics, from politics and social issues to personal choices and philosophies. We may have felt that it was important to express our viewpoints, sometimes even going out of our way to correct others or prove a point. Debating can be seen as a form of intellectual exercise, a way to assert our identity, or even to solidify our place within a social group. However, after 60, something shifts. The urge to engage in unnecessary debates begins to fade, replaced by a desire for peace and understanding rather than conflict and division. This doesn't mean losing passion for important issues or becoming passive in the face of injustice. Instead, it's about choosing when and where to invest our emotional and mental energy. This shift is also driven by an understanding of how futile many debates can be. Over time, it becomes clear that people are often entrenched in their beliefs, and no amount of debating is likely to change their minds. Rather than engaging in exhausting discussions that rarely lead to meaningful change, we choose to conserve our energy for more constructive conversations. The focus shifts toward fostering understanding and connection rather than division and contention. Additionally, the realization that life is too short to spend it arguing over matters that ultimately don't impact our personal well-being or happiness becomes a driving force. By choosing to disengage from unnecessary debates, we create more space for positive interactions, creative pursuits, and peaceful moments of reflection. Time spent with loved ones, hobbies, and personal growth take precedence over conflict, enriching our lives in ways that constant arguing never could. 7. No longer striving for perfection. Perfectionism is a heavy burden that many of us carry throughout our lives. In our younger years, we often strive to be perfect in everything we do, whether it's in our careers, our relationships, or our appearance. The desire for perfection can be overwhelming, leading to constant self-criticism and a sense of never being good enough. However, after 60, there's a liberating realization that perfection is not only unattainable, but also unnecessary. Life is inherently messy, and people are imperfect. It's these imperfections that make life beautiful and meaningful. The pursuit of perfection often leads to stress, anxiety, and a relentless sense of inadequacy. But with age comes the understanding that imperfection is a natural part of the human experience. Letting go of perfectionism also leads to increased compassion toward ourselves and others. We understand that mistakes are part of the journey and that they don't define our worth. This shift allows us to enjoy life's imperfect moments rather than constantly striving for an unattainable standard. It opens the door to more authentic and fulfilling experiences where we can celebrate our unique qualities and the beauty that lies in our imperfections. For instance, Thomas, who was always meticulous and perfectionistic, found joy in embracing the imperfect nature of life after retiring. He took up pottery, a hobby that inherently involves trial and error. Instead of striving for flawless creations, Thomas began to appreciate the beauty in the irregularities of his work. This new perspective not only made his hobby more enjoyable, but also brought a sense of peace and satisfaction that perfectionism had previously obscured. 8. No longer worrying about long-term future plans. Throughout our lives, we're often conditioned to worry about the future. Whether it's saving for retirement, planning for our children's education, or ensuring there's enough for a rainy day, the future always looms large. This constant focus on what's next creates an underlying anxiety. Questions like, will we be prepared? Or, will everything go according to plan? The what-ifs of life can sometimes feel overwhelming, and the effort to control the future often distracts us from the present moment. However, after reaching 60, a significant shift in mindset tends to occur. While planning for the future remains important, the excessive worry about things that are out of our control starts to fade. There's a deeper understanding that life is unpredictable, and no matter how carefully we plan, there will always be unexpected twists. This realization brings a sense of freedom, as we accept that we cannot control everything and that uncertainty is a natural part of life. This shift in perspective means that while we still make plans for the future, we do so without letting fear of the unknown control our happiness. We learn to strike a balance between preparation and living in the present. The emphasis moves from what will happen in 10 or 20 years to how we can make the most of today. This isn't about being careless or ignoring responsibilities. It's about recognizing that the future is beyond our control and choosing to focus our energy on the present. By letting go of excessive worry, we open up space for joy, peace, and gratitude for the present. Instead of being consumed by thoughts of what might happen years down the road, we develop a newfound ability to enjoy the here and now. Time becomes more precious, and we learn to savor the small moments, whether it's a quiet morning with a good book, an afternoon spent in nature, or an evening with loved ones. For example, David, who had always been focused on long-term goals, found that his constant worry about the future was preventing him from enjoying his retirement. He decided to adopt a more present-focused mindset, engaging in activities that brought him immediate joy and fulfillment. This change not only reduced his anxiety, but also enriched his daily life with meaningful experiences and connections. 9. No longer feeling obligated to participate in every social activity. In earlier stages of life, many of us feel a strong sense of obligation to say yes to almost every social invitation that comes our way. Whether it's attending family gatherings, workplace events, or social engagements with friends, there's a desire to maintain appearances, be included, and avoid disappointing others. This fear of missing out, or the expectation that we should always be socially available, can lead to overcommitment and feelings of being stretched thin. However, after 60, something shifts. The sense of obligation to participate in every social activity begins to wane. There's a growing realization that time and energy are finite, and not every invitation requires our attendance. This doesn't mean losing our social connections or stopping enjoyment time with friends and family. Rather, it means becoming more intentional about where we invest our time and energy. The fear of missing out is replaced with the understanding that we don't have to be everywhere or do everything to feel fulfilled. True fulfillment comes from deeper, more meaningful interactions, not from trying to be present at every event out of obligation. The quality of our social engagements becomes more important than the quantity, and we learn to say no without guilt, prioritizing the people and activities that truly bring joy and peace into our lives. This shift also brings a greater sense of freedom. There's no longer the pressure to attend events simply to please others or maintain appearances. Instead, social interactions are chosen based on how they align with our personal well-being. We become more selective, choosing to engage in activities that nurture us emotionally and spiritually, rather than participating just because we feel we should. Moreover, the relationships we maintain after 60 often grow deeper and more authentic. When we're no longer overburdened by social obligations, we have more energy to devote to the connections that truly matter. We spend time with people who uplift us, bring joy into our lives, and understand and appreciate us for who we are. The superficial interactions that once filled our calendars become less frequent, making way for moments of genuine connection. Additionally, this newfound freedom allows us to explore solitude without fear or judgment. Spending time alone becomes a cherished aspect of life, whether it's enjoying a quiet afternoon with a good book, taking a walk in nature, or simply reflecting on life. Solitude offers a sense of peace and introspection that can be incredibly fulfilling, allowing us to recharge and connect with ourselves on a deeper level. For instance, Margaret, who once felt obligated to attend every family reunion, began to prioritize the gatherings that held the most significance to her. This intentional approach not only strengthened her relationships with loved ones, but also gave her the space to enjoy her alone time, fostering a sense of balance and well-being. Conclusion: embracing a life of intentionality and fulfillment. In conclusion, life after 60 is not about giving up or slowing down. It's about living more intentionally. It's about letting go of the things that no longer serve you, the habits and mindsets that once felt necessary but now seem burdensome. These are the freedoms that come with age, the ability to live authentically, to prioritize joy and peace, and to embrace the present moment. As we navigate this stage of life, we find ourselves reflecting on the richness of our experiences and the wisdom we've gained. We let go of unnecessary burdens, embrace our true selves, and focus on what truly matters. This period becomes a time of reflection, wisdom, and above all, gratitude for the journey that has shaped who we are today. Thank you for watching the entire video. If you found these stories inspiring and motivating, please comment 1. If not, comment 0. Your feedback means a lot to us and helps us create content that resonates with your experiences and needs. Embrace this new chapter with an open heart and a spirit of adventure. After all, life after 60 is not the end. It's a new beginning filled with endless possibilities for peace, happiness, and fulfillment.